barbecue fans, welcome to a cold evening on the Frankenboo Ranch. All right, so tonight we're gonna do something a little bit different. We're gonna make a stuffed pork loin. Now, if you guys have never done this, it's really simple. It's a great recipe to do, and it's actually very delicious. So let's go over our recipe real fast. All right, so we're gonna start with a half a cup of panko breadcrumbs. We're gonna go with a third of a cup of cranberries. We're gonna go with a third of a cup of walnuts. We've got a half a cup of chicken stock, and then we're gonna go with a third of a cup of onions and a full cup of green apples. And we're gonna mix all this together. We're gonna butterfly our pork loin, and then we're gonna roll it, tie it, and stick it in the smoker. Now, I've got two smokers I'm going with tonight. One of them I'm gonna fire up to 450 degrees. The other one I'm gonna fire up to 350 degrees. The reason I'm doing this is just to save a little bit of time. If you don't have two smokers, it's not a big deal. You can fire one for 450, sear the pork loin, and then pull it off, let it rest while the temperature comes down. It recovers to about 350 degrees, whatever you guys want to smoke with. Now also, tonight I'm cooking pork, so I'm cooking with black cherry and apple blend. I'm searing with straight black cherry, and then I'm going to cook with an apple black cherry blend. This gives an added dimension of flavor to this thing. So let's talk about our equipment that we're going to use tonight, or our tools, I should say. I've got myself a fancy apple core, makes it really easy. I'm also doing a lot of chopping. I've got some fresh rosemary out of the herb garden that I'm gonna be chopping up. So I like to have a nice, good Santoku hollow blade, a good chef knife, whatever you guys want to use for that. I'm using Hammerstall, great company, great products. Then I'm also going to be filleting the pork loin. You can see my pork loin here. I'm going to be filleting this thing, so I'm going to use a boning knife. The reason I want to use a boning knife is because I need a lot of control. What we're going to do is we're going to fillet this thing out and make it really thin so we can roll it back up. So I'm going to use the boning knife for that one. Again, Hammerstall, great products, keep great edge, super sharp knives. All right, so that's where we're at. And then also the last product that I need is my dragon's milk, because it's actually kind of chilly out here tonight. So I figured that should help warm me up. So let's go ahead and get at it and start this recipe, see what you guys think. So, as I said before, you know, we've got our correct tools for the job. One other thing I wanted to point out is that I'm only going to use one cutting board for this. And the way I'm going to get away with doing that is I'm going to cut my onions, my apple, my cranberries, my walnuts. I'm going to do it all on here first, and then I'm going to get to the pork loin, because once we start cutting up the pork loin, it's going to mess up our cutting board, and then we'd have to change cutting boards, and we only want to use one tonight. So let's get at it. You can see we got some good smoke coming out of these things. Getting all fired up, ready to go. It's a lot. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 1/4 cup of panko breadcrumbs. I'm going to put them in my bowl, because we're going to have to mix all the ingredients together. So this is what we're going to mix them in. All right, now you can use, you can make your own breadcrumbs if you want. I do that a lot of times. I just didn't have the opportunity to do it this time. No big deal. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my chicken stock, and I'm going to put it in here as well. We're going to blend that in. My little spatula here. Let's go ahead and mix that up. You can see we're just starting to soak those things and get them nice and wet. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside. Let's double check that dragon's milk. That's tasty. Fresh rosemary from the garden. Now, if you guys have a herb garden, it's a huge bonus. I actually have a lake here on the property. You guys have seen it in the All right, guys, so let's go ahead and pop this pork butt open, or pork loin open, and we will get to filleting it. This is actually a lot of fun to do. It takes a little bit to master how to do this, but once you get it done, you'll figure it out, or once you get to it, you'll figure it out. It looks like I've got 2 of them in here, so that's interesting. All right, well, so be it. We'll go with 2. Hopefully we can get them thin enough. Otherwise, we'll be stitching them together. All right. So what you want to do, let's take this little bit of silver skin off of here. I like to get the nasty, chewy stuff off as early as possible before we start filleting and tearing everything up. All right, and get this little piece off right here. All right. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take this thing and we're going to start a cut along the edge here. I'm going to start a cut right here. Make a nice straight cut all the way down. Now we want to keep the pork butt roughly that thin. So what we're going to do is we're just going to slice it and unroll it as we go down through the length of the thing here. Okay, so let's just continue to go like this. So now we've got a nice edge starting here. And if you break through, don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. And then as you can see, I'm starting to approach the edge down here. I want to feel where I'm at. I'm going to lay this out here. Now I'm going to start coming in and coming around the backside. And then we're going to continue on, and you can see we're starting to unroll the butt or the loin here, so we get a little bit thick right there. I don't want to get too. I don't want to get too thick. I want to keep it as thin as possible. Okay, and then we're going to continue on through here. Let's make sure we're not going to break through on the back. And now let's just take this and bring it all the way to the back. Okay guys, so let's go ahead and fire this thing up. Our smoker is at 475 degrees, which is great because all we're doing is searing it on the little smoker. I want to sear the thing, I want a nice crust on it, and then I'm going to take it from there and I'm going to put it onto the bigger smoker to where we can cook it until finished. So this is why we tie it up. See, everything's nice and tied up, everything's ready to go. So let's go ahead and fire this thing up. Now I'm going to let that thing sear. I'm going to let that thing sear for about 15 to 20 minutes until it's nice and brown on the outside. Then I'm going to transfer it over here and we're going to go ahead and finish the cook then. So we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Okay guys, let's go ahead and take this thing off the hot smoker, because it's done with the sear, and we're going to move it over to the standard smoker so we can finish the cook. All right, so let's go ahead and grab this thing. You can see it's got some nice grill marks on it. It's got a nice little bit of sear on top. Technically, I'd like to leave it on there a little bit longer, but I don't want to cook it at 450 degrees, so let's go ahead and put it over here. Alrighty. So now we're going to let this thing cook for about 45 minutes, half an hour to 45 minutes, until it reaches an internal temperature of 140 degrees. And once it reaches 140 degrees, we should be good to go. So I'll see you guys back here in about a half an hour to 45 minutes. Okay guys, here we are at the end of our cook. We are actually at 145 degrees in our pork tenderloin. So let's go ahead and pull it and take a look. All right, so this thing's looking really nice. You can see some nice char on it here. So let's go ahead and start by popping the string off of it. Now, this thing smells absolutely incredible. So once you pop the first portion of the string, you just unwrap it like you wrapped it. Real simple. And now we put an extra tie in the center here. So let's go ahead and get that one off without stabbing ourselves. There we go. Okay. And we're going to pull on the string.